Wow, thank you. Thank you, Leah. Thank you so much. And I, as I was listening to Leah say all these things that I've done, I think it's pretty overwhelming for two reasons. One, just a little bit about me. I've never taken an ELD course in my life. So when I came to the United States, there was no ELL classes, and neither was native language literacy. And I'll tell a little bit more about my story, but I think as she was saying those things, I come to this realization that, todo se puede. Con ganas todo se puede. Entonces, it's really a pleasure to be here today. I am truly honored. As Leah said, I was an interpreter translator a long time ago, and I just want to say thank you for all you do. Thank you for supporting our families, because I called the presentation Beyond Words, because I really think that the work that interpreters, translators do is really beyond the words. We're really helping our families and our students reach their dreams and goals. And so I just want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you for doing and supporting our school system. And so, yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit about, just beyond words. It means providing this cultural mediation, the emotional support for our families. You know the families better than anybody else. We are able to interpret that nonverbal communication while we're interpreting, the advocacy. You are able to, many times I remember after interpreting, I was able to go and say to somebody, you know what? I don't know that they really understood that, or I'm not sure if that message was clearly delivered. And so even though we might not know it, you're truly advocating for these families and students. We're there when crisis comes up, and we're intervening. And so, and also the cultural brokering that we're doing. So you're also those cultural brokers for our families. So it's not about just translating. It's not about interpreting. It's not about words that come, right, that we're able to say in both languages that we might be interpreting, but it's about the educational equity that we're doing within our system. So I like this, that was a little bit about me, but I like to know a little bit about who's in the room today. So the way I want to do that, I know there's a lot of you, so I can't get to all the tables and for you to tell me your name and learn a little bit about you, but I do want anybody that is bilingual in the room to stand up. Great. Wow. This is so amazing. I mean, it just, I know that the reality within your districts might be that you're the only one in the district. You might be the only one in your school. You might be the only one within the classroom. But look around you, and this is the networking that is happening today. So please take advantage of that. There's so much wealth in this room. The next thing I want you to do, now that you're all standing, I want you, if you speak Spanish, I want you to go ahead and sit down. Awesome. And then what other languages are around the room? Mandarin? Mandarin? Vietnamese? Arabic and French? Portuguese? Russian? Great. Did we get them all? Thank you. You can all sit down. So a little bit about my bilingual journey. I am originally from Mexico City. My family moved to Oregon in 1988. I was in schools in Mexico up to probably fourth grade or third grade, and then I entered the school system in the United States when I was a fourth grader. So you probably, maybe a lot of you can relate to my story, but because I know it's not the only one, right? So when I moved to Oregon, I moved to the city of Canby. Canby's just outside of Portland, very, very small town. In my grade, there was only 2 ELL students, me being one of them. And then there was another boy who I became his shadow because he could speak English. And so wherever he went, I went and I followed. Whatever he said, I did. And I had lots of questions about bus, about library, about lunch. And so even though he could tell me about it, I wasn't quite sure about how did this work? I get a book from the library and I take it to this lady and then I get to take it home. And when do I bring it back? And why are they allowing me to take books home? When, in Mexico, it's really hard to take a book out of the library. And so there was all these questions that I had. And so I began understanding the importance of the language and the language that I needed to acquire. And so I also began to understand the importance of interpreters and translators because they became essential not only at school for me, at school for my family, but for our everyday necessities. If we needed to go to the doctor, we needed an interpreter. If we needed to go and ask about, how do we go about establishing or getting an apartment, my family needed an interpreter. And so I realized at a short age just how much we depended on another person in order to do the simple things in life, right, that we needed to do. So I want you to take a little moment before we continue. On your tables, I put some clocks, and you're gonna make some appointments. I skipped this part at the beginning. You're gonna make some appointments because we're gonna be talking to some of our friends. If you wanna make appointments at your table, perfect. If you wanna make them with the table right next to you because you wanna meet someone else, that is awesome. I want you to find a partner that you can talk to for your 12 o'clock appointment, your 3 o'clock appointment, your 6 o'clock appointment, and your 9 o'clock appointment. So if you let's just take a minute for us to do that. If you find someone, and I know Leah's helping me pass those out, but if you can find someone and write their names, because when I say, okay, go to your 12 o'clock appointment, you're gonna go find that person. So go ahead and find 4 people that you can share with. Okay, clap once if you can hear me. Clap twice if you can hear me. Perfecto. Gracias. So, all these experiences, I'm sure some of you can relate, but I'm thankful for them because they helped me, kind of gave me the drive to do what I had to do next. So while I was in high school, I became a teller. So after school, I had early dismissal, and I would walk over to US Bank, and I would work for a couple hours in the afternoon. Can be surrounded by a lot of nurseries, and so there's a lot of farm workers that go to the bank. And so they mostly use me in the afternoons, and I think the only reason they hired me was because of my bilingual skills, right? Because I was only like 17 and working at a bank and handling money. So that was a little dangerous for them when I think about it. But they gave me a job, and I loved it. I loved it because I was able to help people in the community. My family also worked in the fields during the summers, and so I worked picking strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, cucumbers. And so most of these families that were now coming into the bank were families that I used to go work with. And so in the summers. And so it was really nice because, they would always take like their taquitos de mole, and I would always be like, oh gosh, I'm not a big fan for meat, but anything that has to do with mole and tortillas recién hechas, I am there. And so they would always pack their own lunch, like I remember, and they would have one for me. So then it was nice to be at the bank and go, Vicky, ¿cómo estás? We're so glad you're here. So, the work becomes personal. After that, I started working as an instructional assistant and then became the translator for Canby School District, the district that I graduated from. So then I started working with the students of these families. Then after that, I worked because I needed I needed to go to college and I needed money. So then in the evenings and Saturdays, I started working at the Canby Public Library. And then that was another area that I helped kind of build their library, even though I wasn't sure what books I wanted to pick, really. At 19, I started reading because I wanted to know, like, oh, would this be a book for the library in Spanish? And I think that's how I supported my skills in Spanish, because remember, I only went to school in Mexico up to the 3rd grade. But by working at the library, I needed to read the books in order to know, is this a good book for the library in Spanish? Then there was this big project that they wanted to put like an agricultural, low-income units for our families in Canby. It was a big deal in Canby. Why? Because we had the apartment complex that was going to be built. It was going to be right across from a residential area, which was one of the newest residential areas in Canby. So the people from these houses were opposing to building these apartments. And of course, you can imagine what they were saying and the reasons why they did not want these apartments, right? So what I did is I told my dad, I said, you know what? We need to become like the managers for the apartment complex, because we need to prove them that there's more to someone who is immigrant, migrant worker, like everything that is being told, we need to make sure that we show that that is not the reality. So I made a resume for my dad, and then I turned in the application, and then next thing I know, we have a interview. So I wrote to my dad, and I said, you know what, Dad, we have an interview. And he goes, what? You did what? Yeah, we're going to work in the afternoons. We're going to work from 4 to 7 at the apartment complex, and we're going to make sure that we are able to use our bilingual skills to help get the families in our apartment complex and make sure that this is the best apartment complex that there can be in Canby. And that's what we did for a couple years. I did that until I graduated from college and became a teacher. So that's a little bit of my bilingual journey and my whys. Like, my experience became my why as far as what I wanted to do. So I want you to find your 12 o'clock. I want you to let's take about 2 minutes, talk about your bilingual journey, and talk about how did that influence the work that you have done or the work that you're doing currently. Bilingualism, you're gonna say, is a superpower. Here we go. Bilingualism. Otra vez, let's try it again. Bilingualism. Okay, casi tenemos a todos. I know. All right, so if I say bilingualism, you're gonna say is a superpower. Here we go. Bilingualism. Perfecto, perfecto. All right, so I know we can't all share, but is there anybody that would be willing to share a little bit about like their journey, their bilingual journey, and why they decide to do the work they do currently? Una persona que me ayude. Here, I gotta take you the microphone though, because otherwise we're not gonna be able to hear you.
they kind of lose that childhood and that kind of sense of like, I guess that blissfulness of like, oh, like this is the real world. It's like kind of seeing that disparity firsthand. And so I hope that like in being an interpreter and kind of working in those areas, like we can help by reducing that.
Un aplauso. Yes, yes. And I put up this, that is by, I was at NAVE last week, and it was Miguel Cardona, our Secretary of State, was talking about, being bilingual is a superpower, and they're promoting like multilingual education, encouraging high quality language programs, and they're hoping that we have a diverse multilingual educator workforce across the country. And so this is a drive, right? It's not like we're growing, and they know that. And they know that we need to be able to put in place the programs that are gonna help our future generations become bilingual. We know the benefits, right? We know that it provides cognitive, economic, and social cultural advantages. And Dr. Cardona stated that our nation continues to grow more diverse, and as our global economy becomes more interconnected, we need to provide all students with opportunities to become bilinguals. Now, I went back and forth because there's a lot of graphs and charts that show our growing population. And then when I thought about who I was gonna be presenting for, I thought, you don't need that. We know, we're in the field, we're actually doing the work, so you see the families, you know how numbers have changed across our schools, you know that firsthand. So I don't need to show you because you know that. But I just want you to know that there's this push to continue to support bilingualism. And I want you to know that your journeys are important because they drive the work that you do. And also, I want you to know that you have a superpower that you're currently using to continue to support our systems. So I put up a picture about, this is me. This is my graduation picture from KMB High School. My parents, my sister, my brother, I'm the oldest of three. And I want to say that the reason why I put this picture up there is because graduating high school was the hardest thing that I have done. And not because I was a bad student, because I was an awesome student. But because there were so many things I didn't know. And my parents didn't know. GPA, grades, classes, advanced classes, different trackings. What does it mean? My family had to leave for Mexico for a year. When I went to Mexico, I had missed the testing period, so I was out of school for a whole year. I didn't know anything about credit recovery, right? So I come back and I'm like, oh, great, I'm a junior now or a senior, And they're like, wait a minute, what happened to your sophomore year? You don't have those credits, you can't graduate. What do you mean I can't graduate? There has to be a way, right? So I ended up taking classes, evening classes. So I was going to the high school, and then I was taking credit recovery at CCC in order to graduate on time. And the reason I put this up there is because as interpreters and translators, what I see is that most of the time we're translating the sheet that goes, okay, here are the clubs. Here is the information about, like right now, my 8th graders did forecasting for the high school. We had a meeting with parents. At the meeting, they had like these awesome graphs about, the classes, like regular classes that you can take, regular English. But they also had advanced English. And they had like, this is the tracking that you can go by. And here's the science. And by the way, pick 15 classes, but 5 of those are alternatives. And people were interpreting that. How much of that information was really accessible to our families, right? How much of it did they really get? What does it mean having 5 alternative classes? Well, it means that if you don't get your first 5 choices, they choose from those 5 alternatives, right? And what does it mean, like 3 credits? How many classes does that equal? Because it's 0.5 per class, right? And so I as I was an interpreter myself, I saw that. I saw people's faces when they were said to like, okay, and now this is what you need to do, and here is your packet in Spanish. And they just kind of sit there going, what do I do with it? Like, where do I start? And so I think that's the piece that we are trying to advocate for, right? When we're sitting and interpreting those papers, you know that the background information that our families are going to need in order to access that paper that you're about to hand out. If you're interpreting at a meeting, right, and you've done it 3-4 times because that meeting happens every year, you know the questions that the families are going to come and ask you afterwards. You know this information, right? And so I think, as I think about back in my different experiences being an interpreter, as an instructional assistant, then being an interpreter at the district level, then being an interpreter as a teacher, and now being an interpreter as an administrator, I know that there's differences in the way I was able to advocate at all these different levels. But we did advocate, right? Because we know what was needed. So for your 3 o'clock appointment, I want you to talk about one situation where you have encountered that interpreting the paper, or translating the interpreting for the meeting wasn't enough. That you knew that there was more to be done in order to provide access to that information. And what did you do about it? So find your 3 o'clock. When did you encounter a situation, and what did you do about it? Okay, I knew that this was gonna be the hardest part to get back people to gather your attention. I knew that. I knew that we were gonna have a hard time coming back from that particular prompt because there's so many things, right, that we are still advocating for. So, anybody willing to share what they talked about? Thank you.
The Price is Right. Yay!
Yay!
Every single IEP meeting with parents who don't have college degrees.
Yeah, like I think, you know, the work that, just that piece needs,
They don't know the terminology.
well, the process, right? Let alone the terminology, the process, their rights, what they are able to advocate for, what they're talking about with minutes, and, you know, what does it mean to be, you know, minutes inside the classroom, minutes outside the classroom? What does it mean once they get to the high school, right? And so, yes, absolutely. Anybody else? What have you been advocating for? Ahora sí los estoy pidiendo que vengan para acá.
I think it just sometimes comes to the basic understanding of what schooling is. At Tualatin High School, we have been intentional with our meetings for our Latinx parents, what it means to be a student, learning what it means to have 26 credits to graduate, what it means to read a transcript, what it means to have a schedule with an A day and a B day, because the schooling systems are different. And a lot of our parents don't have that understanding. So it's as basic as having that understanding. So we really are intentional in our meetings to break down how to read a transcript, what questions to ask teachers and staff members during conferences. So we do scripts, we do questions, we do role playing, and it's just as basic to learning what it means to be a student so they can model that at home and practice.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, definitely. You know, moving, so then, you know, I did become a teacher, and I chose dual immersion. I haven't taught anything else that has not been a DLI classroom. And like you said, coming from elementary, going to middle school was a huge shock. Like you should have seen me last year at the middle school. I was going, what are we doing right now with the, what is it, band concerts? Why are we having like evening? I didn't, like simple things that I should know, but I don't have any kids. And so I had never been a parent of a student at the middle school. So my life has been at the elementary, right? So I became a DLI teacher. I taught kindergarten, first grade, sixth grade, a lot of other things during summer school. The reason why I put DLI up here is because being bilingual has been such a great asset for myself that is exactly, and that's what I stand for as my next part of my pathway, right? I wanted to help other students be able to not only learn that second language, right, but also be proud of who they were, be able to continue to value their identity. And now being at the middle school, I understand how crucial it is, because our students at the middle school are going through so many changes. And at the middle school, they're trying to figure out who they are. What do they stand for? Who am I gonna hang out with? Their peers become the most important thing that they can have. And so when you really know, like, gosh, I speak Spanish, I speak English, I've been reading and writing in both languages since I was in a kindergarten classroom. That is really powerful. And DLI programs just create the environment, the safe space to also say, you know what, that weekend, when we were talking about what I did on the weekend, and I had a carne asada, y mi mamá hizo pozole, and you have that space where it's okay to say that, and there's people in the room that are going to understand. There's teachers in the classroom that are able to go, qué rico, y fue el pozole verde o fue rojo, ¿verdad? Just their faces really light up. Being in the classroom, I had a kindergarten once say to me, maestra, I had taquitos de lengua. And of course, like, I have native English speakers, and they're like, wait a minute, is that tongue? And I said, yeah. And of course, their reactions. So you start at an early age going, it's okay. You haven't tried them? If you go to Canby, en la marqueta que está en la esquina, right? You can ask for one. They're so good, right? Like, I think just them knowing that they have that safe space and that it's okay. Like, it's okay to bring that on and have that as an asset. So I was a dual immersion teacher for about over 14 years. And then I truly believe in family engagement. Like, that's another passion of mine. If I ever do something else in my life, I would love to be like a parent liaison for our district. Because just like you said, like, the work that we need to do with families in order to help them understand the system, it's like, that is crucial, right? And so I love working with families, and actually that is one of the things that brought me to OABE. It was the parent strand. We didn't have a parent strand, we had an educator strand, but we didn't have a parent strand, and actually Eleni and I worked on that for the very first time. And so that is just important, and I kind of already mentioned just the importance of culture. And so, we continue to do this work with our future generations so they have that superpower as well. And I'm almost running out of time, and I want to get to the next slide. But just, I want to be able to let you know that the most important thing that I want to say is that we need to continue to advocate. And I know it's hard because, gosh, we're already doing so much work. We're already trying to, like, retain information, translate it, do the output in the other language. We're already doing hard work, right? We're already trying to figure out, who do I talk to? And at the school, and this parent is asking for resources outside of school, right? Because I know they ask you for resources outside of school, for mental health, for just different needs. And so I know that you're doing a lot of work, but it's just, to me, it's impressive to see so many of you in the room. And together, I think we can continue to do this work. I think we can continue to, make it better, and we do need to make it better. And so these are my parents right here, Don Heriberto y la señora Victoria, and they are my drive. You know, this is the first time that I do a presentation. So I want to thank you for that. And the only reason I said yes, because I like to do the work in the background, right? And then go, you can do it, come on, like do it. The only reason I said yes to this is because I really admire and I know firsthand the work that you're doing. And I want to thank you for allowing me to share my story. And I want to end with a little clip because I was given this book by one of my mentors, Angie Navarro, who I worked for many, many years and continue to work. And this is the perfect book that I think fits for today. So today feels hopeful for me, and I hope that it feels hopeful for you too. And take advantage of all of you in order to work together, network, get people's numbers. You're not alone. Like, I know there's districts where you are alone, but look around. There's so many of us trying to do this work. And also, I want to tell you that you have such a superpower. Don't forget about yourself. You have so many doors that you can open, that you can be, that you get to dream big as well. And so I invite you to think about your next steps. What do you want to do, right? You're an interpreter translator, you work for the district, but what is your next step as a bilingual person? So please, we need more people in our district, teachers, administrators, liaisons, and you get to advocate at a different level. And so, again, I just want to thank you for letting me share my story. I want to thank you for coming today. And I'm in Kiambi. I'm at Baker Prairie Middle School. If you ever need any resources, anything that any questions, anything that I can help with, and and we have OABE as well. We're there for you. So we're trying to do this work, and we're a community of learners. So thank you so much.